Hey, beautiful people. I am Desiree Cocroft, and I am back to help you get your life together, be that soft life CEO of your own life, and to be that executive life leadership coach that you wish you had. And so today, I want to talk about something I talked about a while ago. I made a video on how you can change your life just by changing 1% of one of your habits on a regular basis, and over time compounds and you'll see change in your life. I wanted to talk about this topic, but I want to talk about it from a different perspective because what I realize is that some people still don't feel like 1% is achievable. In addition to that, some people even find the 1% to be hard. I'm going to actually talk about the latter, the 1% being hard. And I want to give you some things that could help that 1% be less hard over time. Now, let's be clear. I love to say this, and I'll say it again, I've said it a million times, that everything is hard until it's a habit. Everything is hard until it's a habit because literally your mind is used to doing things a certain way. The way that your brain is set up, it is used to routine. You have literally created excuse me, had to burp. You have literally created the way that your life is going every day because you have made decisions and your brain is like, oh, you like that. Oh, you like doing that. We're going to keep doing that. And so you're almost on default, right? You're doing things automatically after a while. You can find yourself driving to work without even thinking. Your mind is on 1,000 things and you realize you're at work when you're at work. And sometimes I think to myself like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I didn't get into like a accident or anything because my mind was like not present while I was doing all of this maneuvering. And so I'm saying all that to say is that our brain does it because it allows us to have the capacity to take in information because all the information that we get every day, our brain cannot process. So it's easier if we do things on automatic. And so some things have just been nailed in, like this is where I go for breakfast, this is what I eat for breakfast, this is how I get up in the morning, all of that. It can be very beneficial in some ways, and then other ways it's not beneficial, especially when we know that there are areas that would be more beneficial to be different because we want to lead our lives differently. And so as I'm working through this for my own life, I want to help you with yours as you are desiring to become future her, that person that you know, that woman that you see in your head that is you, but you haven't actualized her in terms of how she is living her everyday life. So I want you to learn to embody her 1% at a time. And so one way to make this a lot more palatable, again, it's going to be hard until it's a habit, or at least uncomfortable until it's a habit. But one way to make this a little more palatable is just consider how you can make it easy for your future self to exist. And so I think that this has been very helpful to me, and this could be helpful to you. And this is really a tip on habits in general. Now, I always like to quote my favorite quote from the book Atomic Habits is that identity change is the highest form of habit change. So if you watch any of my videos, you already know it's really important to know who future her is. Like, what do you see? Who is she? How does she feel? All of this. Really embodying who she is and being very clear about who she is going to help you be able to answer this next question, because the next question is, once you know who she is, you're learning how you can embody her, how can you make it easy for her to exist? And let's remember, her is you, right? But it's a suppressed part of you that you haven't allowed to be present in the everyday world. You think about it, but you just don't do it, right? And so how do you make it easy? And so for instance, if you believe that your future self, who is your present self, that you believe that she's someone that, works out every day, for instance, is a healthy person that eats healthy, that takes care of herself and all of this, and maybe you had just been way out of whack. Maybe you're taking care of yourself, but you know that there's like another level of care that you could be giving yourself that you haven't been, and like that future version of yourself, that quiet voice is creeping on you like, girl, why you haven't started doing this? We really need this. This will really help, blah, 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 all the things. You need to make it easy for her to exist. How can you make it easier for her to exist? I have found that for me, accountability is the answer. So for you, it might be something else. But for instance, I wanted to get back to working out. I'm like, listen, future Desiree, current Desiree, needs to be working out more often. Many of you may know I have a nonprofit dance company that I've had for 21 years. Me and two friends started in 2004. Signature Dance Company, shameless plug. So when I was dancing like 10, 12, 13, sometimes 15 hours a week between learning choreography, teaching classes, being in rehearsals, right? So, and I'm probably like undershooting it depending on how busy the season was. And so, beyond that, or even prior to that, I was always an athlete. I ran track, I played volleyball, I was always doing something. When I started coaching and training full time for corporate after leaving working the dance company full time, I was then put in a position where I was traveling often. I was traveling about 60 or 70% of the time. So I was like always gone from the house. And so with that being said, I had to learn to fit in working out. Working out and doing things with my body to help me like release stress and all of that once was something that was a part of what I was doing every day. Now I was at this challenging point, this different part of my life where it's like, oh, you gotta like put it in there. Like you gotta be intentional. Whereas before, my whole reason for like working and living and breathing was moving all the time. Now I have to be like other people. They have to make it work with their life because their general work is not one that includes moving their bodies. So that was a little bit on the struggle bus. I had became like a little bit like I don't want to call it lazy. Let me just call it what it was. It wasn't lazy. I think I was just doing the easiest thing. I don't think that that's lazy. It was the easiest thing. I enjoy walks in the park. I really do. I enjoy nature, walks in the park. It's a way that helps me de-stress. And so I did walking. But at the end of the day, where I was in my life, like walking wasn't enough for the amount of stress that my day job had in terms of the way I had to travel. I had to do so many of my logistics. The actual work itself was fulfilling and fun. I love speaking. I love training. I love coaching. That part wasn't as hard. It was more of like the logistical part behind it, and then trying to just manage my own personal life when I'm always away from home. Not realizing that that amount of stress, the workout I was doing did not equal the stress. Because if we don't move our bodies, we hold that stress in our bodies. And because we hold that stress in our bodies, it can start turning into disease. And so in 2023, when I went to the doctor, she told me, yo, your blood pressure is high. I had never had high blood pressure any time in my life, ever. Because a lot of the times my stress was coming off my body. I was working out all the time. And in general, I'm typically a person that's not very high stress, right? But even if I did have some stress in my life, it was getting off my body. So later on that year, I went back to the doctor, still had high blood pressure. And that's when I said, something has got to stop, right? And so I had to start making it easier for me to work out in my life on a regular basis, and it had to be more than walking. If I wasn't sweating, it wasn't a workout. That was my that was my litmus test. It's like, Desiree, did you sweat? Did you get your heart rate up? Like that was the other one. And it's like, if it's no and no, you're not doing enough to be able to like release stress in your life that might be held in your body. And so I actually always say, or I used to say prior to this point that I'm talking to you about, that I never regret a good sweat. That's what I used to say back in the day. I've now started to say that again because I do enjoy working out. But it was like I was in this place of like that fight, flight, or freeze when I was in so much stress from always doing what I needed to do for work and traveling. It was like I wanted to freeze. I wanted to be still and stiff, but it's like I'm holding all of that stress. And so it was counterintuitive. I thought it was good for me to be still, but it's like I was being still, but I wasn't releasing stress. And so I started working out again. I started doing real, getting my heart rate up kind of workouts, HIIT workouts, things to really get me moving. And then I also changed my diet. And so I changed my diet to being vegan. I was a pescatarian for years, and I've been vegan for a little over a year now. And so those two things, in addition to leaving my full-time job, is what a year later created me having normal blood pressure way back down to what I was before, like 116, something like that, over something really good. Whatever those numbers were, right? And so whatever the case is, I know that it was because I started making it easier for me to live the life that I knew Desiree needed to live and Desiree had the ability to live. And I started with my job because I'm like, okay, I need to create a life where it's easy for me to make healthy decisions for myself. And so I had the opportunity to leave my job from being full-time to being a contractor, and here I go, my consulting business. That might not be what is the ability for you, but maybe it is. Maybe you haven't asked questions or considered some of those possibilities, but that's what I did for myself because I knew that, hey, okay, we need to make it easier for Desiree to start, working this out. Now, initially, before, leaving my job, what I needed to do or what I did do to make it easier for myself is I stopped saying yes to things that were back to back. So it was a slow roll. It wasn't like the next day I quit my job, so to speak, but I was on the path to leaving full time. And I started off by just saying, hey, I'm only gonna do certain things so that I'm not always gone because I need to can take care of my health, right? So it wasn't like next day. I was preparing though, right? And so think about what it takes. I know I just told you all this long story, but I'm sure you enjoyed it. So when you're thinking about how to make that 1% of your change easier, it doesn't have to be a lot. Like I started off with 10-minute workouts, 15-minute workouts, 20-minute workouts, but they had to be vigorous, like HIIT workouts, stuff like that. And so whatever your 1% is, doesn't have to be a lot, but you do need to create something that's going to make it easy for that 1% to exist because it's already going to feel uncomfortable. And so the more that you can make that a lot less daunting, it's going to be easier for your mind to say like, oh, like this is not a big deal. Like this is a little piece of life. So that's the same thing that I did for myself. One, what can I do to make this 1% change easier? And so I've made some plans to gently, over time, be released from my full-time work. Like I said, I made the decision, but it was a scaffolded situation over a couple months before I actually left. And so that gave me the opportunity to work out. And like I said, my workouts weren't even like crazy, like 45 minutes, hour. I'm used to going to dance, or I was used to going to hour-long, hour and a half, 2-hour, 3-hour rehearsal dance classes. I wasn't doing that again, not yet. I am now, which is exciting. But at the time, it was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And when I changed my diet, it wasn't like all at once. I wasn't cold turkey. I just was like, okay, I need to eat more vegetables, more plant-based foods in every meal. Let me cook at least my dinner and not try to eat out all the time because I was gone all the time. I was eating out so much, right? You don't know what people are putting in your food, that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, so I'm saying, how do you make it easier to do the 1% and make the 1% easy for your mind to take on and really congratulating yourself for doing it? Like I wasn't like, oh my goodness, you're not a vegan yet. What's wrong with you? Right? And sometimes I would still eat fish when I said I was going to eat vegetables, but it was like, it's the 1%. It was like, well, this week I actually did really good, or this week I cooked, or whatever. Like really congratulating yourself. I was actually talking to a friend recently, and we were just talking about the beauty of making sure that we are practicing positive thoughts. So this is another way to make that 1% change easier for you is how are you thinking? What are the thoughts you are allowing yourself to say to yourself about your progress? How can you practice having positive thoughts about the 1% that you're doing? So this could look like gratitude, being very grateful for where you are and that you're making these changes. The other one could be actually not even just gratefulness, but also just being like celebratory of what you just did. Like, yay, look at you, girl. Look at you killing it. Look at you with your 5-minute workout self. And this is the thing. A lot of it is gonna sound silly, right? It's gonna sound so silly and minute. Is that it? Yeah, minute. Small. But at the end of the day, again, compound. It's going to compound. All you're doing is retraining your brain. You're reprogramming your brain to see this as something that is going to help you over time. This is something that we like. This is something that we celebrate. We create positive feelings around this. It sounds silly at first, and I'm a recovering cynic, so I get it. But if you really take the time to decide that you're open to change, because whatever you've been doing ain't been working anyway, then go ahead and be silly. It's totally fine. Go ahead and be silly and be okay with doing things that might seem a real elementary, right? Because when you get down to it, it's like, oh my goodness, am I a 5-year-old? Am I a 5-year-old again? Am I congratulating myself for tying my shoes? But you kind of are, because that's what it's like when we're talking about habit change, and specifically when you are when you are reprogramming your brain to do something different. So if this was helpful to you, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and share, like, comment. Let me know what moved you. What is something that you're going to do? I would love to hear in the comments. And if this sounds like it's really, really firing you up, you're gonna love my Future Her series. I'm so excited about doing this Future Her course session. Not sure what I've named it yet, but I know what I'm doing is doing the Future Her session. And if you are interested in when I actually launch it, I am working on it now. And if you want to be the first one to get it, then you can go to my website, www.desireecocrowd.com, and sign up for my mailing list. And you will be the first to hear about it when it comes out. Until then, bye.